Hey guys, I'm just on a maintenance here. It's a unit that we did not install. Thought I'd show you guys a couple things here. It is a 1.5 tons. You could see by the 18, which is the tonnage, and it looks like it's a single stage unit. Anyways, we did not put this in, and I'm going to show you guys what I'm finding out here. Pretty sure this one's on a TX valve, and TX indoors is hidden behind the ductwork. It's calling for 10 SUBCOOL. Okay, if you look here, you'll notice that the SUBCOOL is much higher. First thing I noticed downstairs, the airflow was cranked. I mean, the filter was sucking in. So I adjusted it the best that I can. However, I might be able to get it a little bit lower if I set the unit to single stage. I'll post the current dip switch settings that I switched it to from RHEEM, which is switch 5 and 6 in the off position, which is still cranking 1000 CFM, which is much higher than we need. So you know, that's pretty darn high. So I'm gonna go inside. I want to make sure that this is in fact on a TXV, and then I'll see what I can do for airflow. But this thing is definitely overcharged, so I'm gonna have to quote the customer on some repairs to get it back going. So let's head indoors. So as you can see, our pressure is higher on the low side, right? We should be in that green. We're higher, and that's probably because, one, it's overcharged, and two, we're spitting out a lot extra airflow. Okay, my split's only 12, and typically it should be about 18. So we know we're giving too much air for this. Let's see if we can reduce it. All right, so if I switch my airflow to 450 per ton, it's still higher than it should be. All right, so in that case, my split would be a little bit lower of an estimation at 16, but we're still at 12. So pretty interesting. Suction line is 60, liquid line 75, and I don't even have any approach on here at all. If you look, my approach is 0, so not good. Subcooling is way too high. So this thing needs some work done on it, but let's see if I can get that airflow a little bit better. So as we can see, a TXV is could be hidden inside. Not sure if it's a piston or a TXV, but I'm gonna have a look at it. Alright guys, so I'm here in the basement. We're gonna count the blinks on there. That's gonna indicate on the red circle how much CFM this motor is trying to output. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So, you know, the CFM is much higher than it needs to be. So I'm gonna open this up and see if I could get it any lower than I can. I'm gonna post right up here a dip switch manual setting. Now switch 12 will allow me to go to single stage cooling. Okay, and that's going to drop it better than what it's set at. So let's switch 12 to off and see what we got. Alright guys, so I'm currently looking at switch 5 and 6 are in the on position. Switch 12 is also in the on position for single stage. 7 is off, 8 is on. That trims it by 10% as well. So this thing was just not matched up correctly. Technically, with 5 and 6 in the on position, you know, that airflow should be lower, but it's just not. So we're gonna gonna have to work with what we got. Alright guys, this is why we need to read the manual. So the installer had both Ys put on the Y2. Outdoors we have a single stage compressor, so we're getting way too much airflow. What you can do is take your wires from Y2, switch it over to Y1, and what you'll do is you'll get single stage airflow. Okay, I'll post a picture of that description. So this will help reduce the airflow a little bit better than what we had. The other thing you have to do is your dip switch 12 at the top there. That has to be in the off position, otherwise it won't work. Okay, and that says that directly in the manual. Let me just pull it up here. Oh, it says, in addition to the listed cooling airflows for single stage cooling, the installer has the option of using the first stage cooling airflow of the furnace for full cooling airflow speed. This is done by simply connecting a single stage thermostat Y terminal to the furnace controls Y1 terminal. The terminal Y2 of the furnace control is left disconnected. In this case, the airflow delivered by the furnace for full cooling would be the same as the airflow for the first stage cooling of a two-stage cooling system. This gives the user more options for cooling airflow. Okay. Now you won't be able to see this, but I'll show you afterwards. So let's put this back together and we'll see the reduction in airflow for us. Alright, so I just switched that. We'll count the blinks now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we definitely got it a little lower. So we'll go outside and we'll see what our split looks like now. So looking much better. When I first got here, I would remove this and the whole filter would just get sucked in. That's why it's so important to have these set correctly in terms of airflow. So you won't be able to see this, but I'll post it on the screen. Temp splits definitely come up. Subcooling still high, superheat's a lot bit better. So overcharged and too much airflow. Alright guys, so I mean it's looking a lot better. Those reams are a little bit tricky if you don't read the manual, because the airflows could be way too high, but you got to make that switch. You got to take the wires from the Y2, switch them over to Y1, and then you'll get single stage cooling capacity, which will reduce your airflow. And then what you want to do is trim that. If you look here, that brought down my superheat, okay, which looks a little bit better. I mean, this subcooling is still high, so I got to quote her a bit of a reclaim. It should be 10. So, you know, there's some work that needs to be done. When I got here, my split was only about 10. Now it's about 15. So, I mean, that's about the best we're going to get it. I'll let her know of the subcooling being a bit high, and perhaps we could pull out some gas on there. If you look at my approach, okay, approach is a good indication of a couple things. Your approach, when you have zero approach, you're overcharged, okay, especially if you have high subcooling. High subcooling, zero approach, definite overcharge. So she's got some overcharge issues here. You know, when you have high approach, could either mean that you're undercharged, but it is also an indication that your condenser might be dirty. So you want to pay attention to that. Okay. But in her case, I mean, this is cooling, that split's coming up. So I'm not going to pull out the gas until we quote her, because it's not our install. And I helped her out with the airflow adjustment, which is a little bit better. Okay. Based off my numbers right now, 15.6. If I look, okay, an ideal target would be 17.6, but our measurement's still okay because we're still very close, plus or minus, you know. So other than that, I thought I'd show you guys basically what to look for. I'm going to show you another quick trick. You saw how that metering device, okay, is hidden behind the ductwork. So rather than, you know, if you got a case coil, it's easy, you just take it off with some screws and you can see it. But that's all siliconed in, it's all taped. So rather than removing that entire pocket door to get in there to see the metering device, I'm going to show you a little trick, okay? It's a lot easier if you have a probes with a graphing chart, but you can also do this on analogs. But I'll show you how I determine my metering device, okay? I'm going to switch this to my graphing. Here's my high pressure and my low pressure. If this was a piston, when I pull that disconnect, both pressures would equalize very quickly to the same pressures, right? You got an orifice in there, so the pressures just eventually come together. If it's a TX valve, you'll see a gap, okay? They won't equalize as quick. And I'll show you a picture of a piston, and I'll show you a picture of a TX. But let's pull the disconnect on this one. That doesn't sound healthy, that scroll. So you'll watch my pressures, okay? If this was piston, they'd come real quick and meet each other, just like this picture here. Okay, that's a piston. But watch what my pressures do here. You see how we have this gap? Okay, my pressures, they're not equalizing quick. So if you have analogs, those numbers will eventually meet each other quite quickly. So that's how I know there's a TX in there, because of that gap. So that's a quick little trick. If you can't get, I mean, obviously do your best to get in there and look at it. This is a carrier, it says right on the nameplate it comes with a TX on there. It's fairly new, but this is a dead giveaway, okay? That is a TXV valve. Those pressures don't want to meet. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see this. Here's my head pressure and my low pressure on a piston. I want you to watch this as I pull the disconnect. Okay, remember the TXV, it took a while for them to even come close. Alright, so here's the trick. Here's how you spot a piston. I'm going to pull that disconnect now. Disregard this side on the left. Okay, I wonder if it's a better view if I go like that. There we are. So watch those pressures. You see how they quickly merge together. You see that? See how those lines just touch like that? Now it's equalized. See how they came, boom. Look at those pressures. Equalized. So that's how you spot a piston. A little bit harder to do on analogs, but try it out there. Pull a disconnect on a thermal expansion valve, and you'll see they won't equalize the same way a piston does. A piston, pull the disconnect, those pressures will equalize. What I mean by equalize, both sides will be the same almost. Okay? And a thermal expansion valve, they won't. So quick little tip that I figured out. I'm trying to test these out now. That's because a lot of our thermal expansion valves are hidden behind ductwork, so it's a pain in the ass to open those up all the time, especially after our sheet metal guys made the pocket doors, etc., looking really nice. So anyways, this is Hoser. Thought you guys would enjoy that. Leave a comment down below if you've noticed the same thing. If I'm doing anything wrong, let me know as well. Have a good one, guys. See you on the next one.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here